So in this video, we have the RS-2 shocks from Russ Wernimont Designs. Alright, so welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome to Raider World. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so any videos that I post, you guys don't miss it. You guys already know, if you've seen my previous videos, I'm a huge fan of Russ Wernimont Designs. I have the Russ Wernimont Designs RS-1 front suspension, and I have the RS-1 shocks installed right now on this bike. Game changer. If you've ever done front suspension before, you already know it's a noticeable difference. A lot of people, they do the rear suspension, kind of forget the front. I tell you right now, it's a game changer. Make sure you try it out one day. Really looking forward to seeing what the difference is between the RS-2 shocks and the RS-1 shocks. I don't know how much better you can get than the RS-1s. Obviously, aesthetically, they look different, your reservoirs, and also the clicker. You have one clicker versus two clickers. On the RS-1 shocks, you had your black knob and your red knob. On this one, you only have one, so there's not really any confusion. All the way to the left is your softest setting, and all the way to the right is your firmest setting. Now, to get the full experience between the RS-1 and RS-2 shocks, I fully loaded the bike, full tour pack, full saddlebags. I made sure I rechecked my SAG, checked those clickers, made sure everything was set correctly, and I went on a 200-mile ride. So now I'm gonna swap these out, throw these RS-2s on there, go on that exact same ride. That way, when I come back, I can share with you guys what my thoughts are as far as these RS-2s, if there's any difference, if it's worth upgrading, or if you're looking to get better shocks. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what these are all about. So let's get them installed. All right, so in the box, you get your left and right shock. You have 4 spacers per shock, and then you also get 2 O-rings per shock. I'll show you exactly where those go. You get some cool stickers and your instructions. So as you're looking at the shock to adjust this, you want to click it to the right. That's going to adjust for your firmness. And then if you click it to the left, that's going to adjust for your softness. So you want to start all the way to the left. Just make sure it stops. And then you obviously want to have the other shock set the exact same. So we'll count how many clicks there are. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you have 10 noticeable clicks. Now, when you first get your shocks, you want to inspect them. Make sure you look them over, make sure everything's functional. If you don't know what you're looking for, you can always call or email. They'll get with you right away and let you know what to look for. You just want to make sure that this adjustment knob is working as it should, that you hear those noticeable clicks, nothing is loose. You want to make sure you check that you have your C-clips installed. You also have internal O-rings besides the O-rings that come in the kit. You want to make sure those are in there. And obviously, after the first couple hundred miles, you want to inspect them, check that SAG again. You want to make sure nothing is leaking out of here. So when you go to install your O-rings, you have your C-clips on one side, on the top and on the bottom. You're going to install these O-rings right inside of here. You can apply some assembly lube if you want, but they should just go right in and they'll set right inside of here. So here you have your spacer. You'll have 4 of these per shock. These are going to go inboard like this. You just want to make sure that it's the same on both sides. All right, so the tools I use for this install, I used a foot-pound torque wrench, a ratchet with an extension, a stubby 3/4 inch socket, 3/4 inch deep socket, a thread restorer kit, and some blue Loctite. Now for this install, you will need a jack or some type of scissor lift, and you'll also need a partner to help set your SAG. First thing I'll do is get these saddlebags off. So for the shocks, you have 2 bolts and a 3/4 inch socket. I'll cover up my exhaust so it doesn't get scratched. Now, because my RS-1s and the new RS-2s are both 13-inch shocks, I'll swap one out at a time. So I'll loosen up the bottom bolt first, and then I'll loosen up the top. Now you just want to raise the bike up far enough to get tension off the shocks. I'll finish taking out the bottom bolt first, and then I'll take out the top. Now when you're taking out the top bolt, just make sure you're supporting your shock so it's not slapping around. All right, so from here, I'll thread chase my holes. You always want to get that old thread locker out of there before you install your bolts. Now the kit that I like to use is the Lang Tools 40-piece rethreading set. This has everything you need to clean off your bolts and to thread chase your holes. I'll drop a link in the description below. So you'll mount it this way with the reservoir down. You won't be able to mount it this way because it'll make contact with your axle and in your swing arm. All right, so now I'm gonna mount the RS-2 shock. Make sure you install those 2 O-rings. They'll go right over your C-clips. And then you have a spacer that's gonna go on one side. You want this flat side facing out. And then you have your spacer that's gonna go on the other side. You'll run your bolt through so it'll look just like that. I'll apply some blue Loctite. So I'll install the top first. I'll loosely get it on here so I can get the bottom bolt lined up. Same thing with the bottom bolt. I'll put on my spacer, flat side out. I'll run it through the shock. I'll take my other spacer, I'll run that through. Make sure you have flat side out. And I'll also apply some blue Loctite. You might need to raise or lower the bike to line up that bottom bolt. I'll tighten these 2 bolts down evenly and then I'll torque them down. Now the torque value for these 2 mounting bolts is 63 to 70 foot-pounds. Now once you get these on, you want to double check the clearance. Make sure no wires are going to snag. It doesn't interfere with your belt or your saddlebags. Now after you install these, you want to double check that knob, check those clicks, make sure it's all the way to the left, that you didn't accidentally bump it while installing it. It's going to be the same thing on the right side, and once I get this installed, we'll set the sag. Now, spring preload is how much the spring is compressed from the free length with the suspension fully extended. So by using a center jack to raise the rear of the bike up to a fully extended shock. So by adding spring preload, this will help prevent the suspension from bottoming out by requiring more weight to compress the spring and give the impression of harder or stiffer suspension. Now for sag, this is the distance the suspension settles under a static weight. So how much your suspension compresses from a fully extended, unladen position. Now there's 2 types of sag. You have free sag. This is the amount the suspension compresses with the weight of the bike alone. Then you have rider sag or laden sag. This is how much the suspension settles with the weight of the rider and any gear. Now there's different methods out there on how to measure for spring preload and sag, but I'm gonna go off the Russ Wernimont Designs instructions, and they're suggesting a sag of a 1/2 inch to 7/8. Now, just keep in mind when you're taking these measurements, you do not have your saddlebags on with that included weight. So just make sure you take that weight into consideration. Now you do want your bike in an upright position, and I'll measure the free sag. And here I'm coming in at 6 5/8. Now I'll mount the bike, I'll bounce on it a little bit to settle the shocks so I can measure rider sag. And here I'm coming in at 6 1/8. Now if you need to adjust your preload, you want to raise the rear of the bike to extend the shocks. Now with the RS1s, Russ Wernimont Designs used to provide a spanner wrench. There was a different configuration to adjust your shocks, but with the RS2s, you can use an adjustment tool inside these pinholes or just spin the shocks with your hands. So here I'll mark the suspension, that way I can keep track of a full rotation. So with the bike fully extended, you can easily turn the spring to adjust your preload. Now just make sure you make the same adjustments on the other side. Now if you're unsure if you're equal on both sides, you can use a measuring tape or just count the threads. All right. So what are my final thoughts on the Russ Wernimont Designs RS-2 shocks? Now, you guys already know I'm in love with the RS-1 shocks. Yeah, as soon as I tried them out, I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad that I went with them when they first came out. You know, it's just, you know, you take a gamble with a lot of stuff you buy. You just don't know until you ride it. You can hear a lot of reviews, you can watch YouTube videos, but yeah, you really just don't know until you actually go out and ride it. And for me, you know, I wanted to try it. Yeah, you know, you can hear people's opinions and stuff like that, but they're all, you know, personal opinions on how they feel about it. But every rider is different, their comfort level. You know, for me, I needed something soft, especially with all my back issues and everything else, being in the military for however many years. And so I fell in love with the RS-1 shocks, and then when Russ Wernimont Designs came out with the RS-2 shocks, I was like, man, how could it get any better? I was like, these are really good. So let me see if I'd like these RS-2 shocks. So, you know, since I filmed the video, it's been, what, 3 months? I just don't like to go ride it around the block and be like, oh, these things are awesome. I actually like to go out and ride them and see how they feel, and give you my actual riding experience with it. So 3 months on them now, fully loaded gear, long distance. Let's just say I didn't think Russ Wernimont Designs could beat the RS-1s. Maybe they were just the same, you know, maybe it's just a different look, you know, adjustability, stuff like that with the one knob instead of two knobs. But good job, Russ Wernimont Designs. You guys knocked it out of the park with the RS-2 shocks. I am excited. I'm glad I did the upgrade. I didn't think they could do it, but they did it, and I'm really glad that they did. Who knows what else they're going to come up with. You know, I have no doubts now. You know, a lot of, you know, suspension companies, they came out with, you know, they come out with new stuff all the time, and mainly it's just looks and how, you know, it operates as far as, you know, adjustments and stuff like that. Most people go for the performance bagger look with the, you know, with the suspension up top with the different colors, and, you know, you can customize it the way you want. But yeah, you know, if you ride a Dyna or something, you can see it. But with these, with the bagger touring models, you're not gonna be able to see those shocks, but your body's gonna feel it. Your body's gonna thank you. Your spine, your back, your lower back, your neck, everything on your body's gonna thank you for the suspension. I've ridden a few hundred miles already on them, almost 1,000. And you know, for about 3 months now, on and off, because I've been switching over bikes with the Street Glide and the Road Glide. So just trying to put these miles in. I did a long distance with it, fully loaded with a person on the back, you know, 2 up, and they love it. So yes, and they actually felt the difference as well between the RS-1 and the RS-2 shocks, just a different response. Now people are like, hey, if I hit a pothole, you know, will it throw me off the bike? Any pothole you hit, no matter what suspension you have, it's gonna hurt and it's gonna suck. Yeah, so what can I say? I do recommend them, but like I always recommend, make sure you go out there and ride them. RS-1 shocks, RS-2 shocks, whatever it might be. I know Harley Davidson's out there. I've seen a couple of them that have been selling the RS-1 shocks. Maybe they've already been selling the RS-2 shocks. I haven't seen them yet, but go out there, ask your local Harley Davidson, do you have any bikes with RS-1 or RS-2 shocks? And they'll let you go ride it. They're trying to sell you a bike, so yes, they're probably gonna let you go ride it. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. This is a very simple install. I've done these videos before, but I just wanted to let you guys know whether or not it was upgrading to the RS-2 shocks, and I absolutely agree. I've ridden a lot of suspensions before, and these by far are my favorite. So, all right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, so when I put out a new video, you guys get notified. Other than that, I'll see you on the next one.